Hoy recibimos al senador Rick Scott, reelecto ahora en esta contienda del mes de noviembre. Senator, welcome to TVV and thank you for doing this.
Es un placer.
And first of all, congratulations for your reelection.
Thank you. I love campaigning. I love traveling the state and talking to people. And so I'm very appreciative of all the votes. And now I'm going to work my tail off to do a good job.
Of course. I will ask you about the U.S. missile use in Ukraine. The warning that this could escalate to Russia's nuclear response. How do you think this threat can be appeased with Trump's arrival?
Well, you know, I know President Trump is committed to ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. My heart goes out to the people of Ukraine. Their country's been devastated by the invasion by Russia. I think all of us are in the same position where we want Russia to lose and Ukraine to win. So my hope is that this doesn't impact the ability of President Trump to end the war and bring about peace and the reconstruction of Ukraine.
President Trump's promise to fulfill his offer of mass deportation. What would he say to What would you say to Venezuelans who fear being expelled from this country and are not criminals?
Sure. Well, first off, I'm from Florida. I believe in legal immigration. We have to have a secure border. We don't want more drugs coming into our country. We had last year over 100,000 people died of drug overdose. We know that we have criminals that have come in, like Maduro's emptied his prisons. We know that there's terrorists that have come in, and we don't know where they are. So I appreciate the fact that the President of the United States is going to focus on securing the border and making sure that these criminals and terrorists and these drug sellers are not going to be here. I want to make sure that there's an opportunity for people that want to come and live our dream, that can come here legally and live our dream. There's a lot of things we have to fix. We have to work on fixing our immigration system so it's easier for people that that we can vet, that we know want to come and live our dream, can come here. Some people might just want to come and work for a few months and go home. So there's a lot of work on that, but we do have to secure our border.
And do you think you have enough personnel in ICE? You have right now 7,000, I think, to do this kind of operation. This will change, it will reinforce the amount of men doing this campaign offer?
Yeah. So I know we have wonderful people that work in Border Patrol. I know we have wonderful people that work at ICE. And I think that they're great Americans, and they want to make sure we have a country that everybody is safe from criminals and drugs and terrorists. So I believe we have the resources to do it. The border was secure when Trump left office. The Biden-Harris administration made the decision to let all these terrorists and criminals and drug sellers into our country, and they've got to leave.
I want to ask you about the Bolívar law. Was passed in the House yesterday, and we could see the attitude of Mike Waltz, the new White House National Security Advisor. He calls Maduro a cartel leader and illegitimate and calls for more sanctions. Will this be the foreign policy of the U.S. towards Venezuela from January 20?
Yes. If you look at the Trump administration when he was in office before, he knew that Maduro needed to leave. They worked hard to try to bring in, to help Juan Guaido. Now we know we've had another stolen election. We have Armando Gonzalez that was clearly elected. So I think what you're going to see is a Trump administration that's going to recognize the new president-elect, is going to work to get rid of Maduro, is going to stand for freedom and liberty in Venezuela and Nicaragua, Cuba, Colombia, all over Latin America. So I'm actually hopeful for the people of Venezuela that they'll get a duly elected leader that's going to worry about them rather than be a narco-terrorist and just try to steal money from the people of Venezuela.
Then you are expecting more sanctions and more pressure against Maduro in that kind of decisions, right?
Yes. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see more sanctions, more accountability for the people that are around Maduro. We won't, if you do business with Maduro, you're not going to be doing business with the American government. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of pressure by the Trump administration to make sure that the duly elected president of Venezuela is duly elected. Now that'll be President Gonzalez.
And in what status is your proposition about increasing the reward against Maduro?
Well, I've got the Stop Maduro Act, which would basically take the number from $15 million to $100 million that we would pay somebody to help us get Maduro and do the right thing, put him in prison in the United States. So it wouldn't be any funds from American taxpayers. It would be funds that we confiscate from Maduro and his regime. So I'm very hopeful we can get that passed. I'm very hopeful that Maduro will be gone. I'm very hopeful that Gonzalez will be put in as the president, and we'll start seeing a prosperous Venezuela for everybody in Venezuela again.
If the Bolívar law implies, this is a question, if the Bolívar law implies, if you think that this can be possible, that Chevron should not be doing businesses with the Venezuelan regime either.
I don't believe anybody should be doing business with the Venezuelan regime right now. Maduro is a pariah. What we need is a president that's going to rally the entire world community to hold Maduro accountable. And unfortunately, the Biden administration has not been willing to do that.
Trump's appointments to the Department of Defense, the Attorney General, and the Director of Intelligence. Will you approve that all three to be confirmed in their positions, or do you have any restraints?
I don't have any concerns about his appointments. I think he knows that we have to make significant changes. It's going to take change agents to get these things done. So if you look at his appointment for the Department of Defense, he's a veteran, somebody that fought, somebody knows what servicemen and women need, and that's what we need. He's going to make sure we have a military ready for the next war, not the last war. I think Tulsi Gabbard's going to do a great job in the intelligence area. She is a committed individual that knows there has to be change. So I'm very optimistic that Mike Waltz, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pete Hedgepath they're all going to do a great job. We want to be out of these forever wars. Two, we want to make sure our allies respect us. Number three, we want to make sure our enemies are scared to death of our military.
Maduro granted parole to minors and other political prisoners held in his jails. But he still has over 2,000 people kidnapped, including 7 American citizens and 2 residents. Do you think Trump will negotiate with Maduro for the release of those hostages in exchange for a concession to his regime, for example?
I hope what happens is that the Trump administration negotiates when Maduro will leave the country. So I think Maduro needs to be in prison the rest of his life. But if he will leave the country and let the election that was happened be implemented, that President Gonzalez is the new president, I think that would be the only negotiation I want. I want a negotiation of when Maduro leaves power. The earlier, they will save a lot of lives.
And do you think Trump will negotiate with Maduro to deport Venezuelan criminals who have committed crimes here? It has to be a negotiation with him.
Well, I believe that the criminals that Maduro has sent here clearly have to be sent back to Venezuela, and so I expect that to happen.
Yeah. What would you say to the new economic operators of Maduro's corruption? Will they be pursued by the United States like Saab was?
I hope so. I'm going to do everything I can to hold everybody around Maduro accountable. What they've done is they how they've treated Venezuelan citizens, how the inflation they've caused, the lack of food, the lack of medicine for so many people in Venezuela, the number of Venezuelans that had to leave their households and move to another country. I hope every one of those individuals that has empowered Maduro is in prison the rest of their life.
And this is the final question, because, you know, we have an internal campaign against sanctions, a narrative that just help Maduro's regime. And then this is why I want to ask you, is the problem in Venezuela the sanctions or the thieves?
Well, there clearly has to be sanctions. Maduro clearly has to leave power. And I think the President of the United States needs to take actions for the United States and rally the international community against the Maduro regime. He needs to be treated like what he is. He's a pariah. He's a pariah to the people of Venezuela, and he needs to leave, hopefully go in prison the rest of his life.
Senator, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your answers.
All right. Thanks, Carla. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too.